A very warm welcome to each one of the panelists. I'm delighted to be a part of this very important session for the day, in which we will be uncovering a lot of insights about how the future of food looks like. We'll be talking about multiple interesting topics, say free from foods, what are the product innovations happening in the industry, and what is the scope of plant-based and flexitarian diets. So without further ado, let's dive in. So my first question is for Sonya. Understanding how the food consumption habits are basically evolving in the next few years, what according to you are the top 3 trends, and what do you think the industry is doing to answer it?
So, thank you so much for the question. I think if I were to put it into a nutshell, there are 3 basic categories that we're looking at in terms of trends in food nowadays. I think the first is consumers taking more control in their choices, in their purchases. Now, what do I mean when I say control? Consumers are more aware and more in control of what they want to put into their bodies. So they're thinking more about, their health and making healthier choices. We've already seen in your research that there's a huge trend for plant-based food. And similarly, there's a trend for reduced sugars. We've heard about that earlier in the day as well, and then having more protein in your food as well. So people are really thinking about what they're putting into their bodies, and they want to be in control of their health, as we've seen in your presentation. The second thing is that people are also very conscious about making more sustainable choices. So Generation Z believes that it's the generation that's going to change things for the planet, and that reflects in their purchasing behavior as well. So they want to buy products that are more sustainably sourced, sustainably packaged, organically grown, locally produced, everything, all of these factors that have an effect on our environment. And also, consumers want control over their spending as well. Inflation is a very real thing across the world, and especially in our region as well. So people want to make decisions based on prices. There's a research that shows 55% of consumers say that price plays a role in what they consume. If we were to look at the other big trend which has emerged post the pandemic, that's enjoyment. People want to have innovative products that they can enjoy on the go. And that, again, is a Gen Z phenomenon of living in the moment, especially post the pandemic. So that puts the impetus on us as a packaging company to provide more innovative packaging and help our customers come up with more innovative products that can serve our consumers. And the third and the last trend I would have to say is, again, post the pandemic, a lot more people are spending more time at home, they're cooking at home, and they want to make their homes as comfortable as possible. So we see a trend that shows that 87% of people use 3 or more packaged products in their cooking every day. And this is something new that's happened post the pandemic. And of course, e-commerce plays a huge role in that, because it's so much easier to order these products, to have them on hand, to have them in the home for whenever you want to cook something and whenever you want to indulge in something, or make, all of these products make things easier to prepare as well. So it's all about the convenience. So if I had to summarize, it's about control, it's about enjoyment, and it's about convenience for the consumers.
Very well said, I must say. And as you rightly also said, that people are very conscious of what they are eating, and they're becoming increasingly diet conscious. So which brings me to my next question to Valeria. What, according to you, are the key differentiating lifestyle diets? And what do you think are the main motivations for consumers in the Middle East to be able to make those changes in the dietary regimes?
Thank you, Manisha, for the question, and I think you already dwelt on that in your presentation very well, so I will just build on that topic further. So from the source of nutritional point of view, I think we distinguish among key 5 diets. This is the omnivore diet, pescatarian diet, vegetarian diet, vegan diet, and then there is another one that is emerging now very fast, which is flexitarian. And this is the most interesting and fascinating space. If we look from the majority point of view, the population is within omnivore diet. But this is where the dynamics are happening at the moment, which are facilitated by different drivers, internal drivers as well as external drivers. The recent pandemic has made an impact on the health choices among the consumers. ongoing climate changes as well, but also the lifestyle diseases. So we can see that what omnivores is doing, they start reducing the consumption of the products that have an impact on their health. It can be products that are overly processed, that have certain artificial additives in them. It can be also animal-based products. So they start reducing, they are going into different occasional situations, like, for example, Meatless Monday, and then they enjoy, they have this feel-good factor in that particular moment, and they decide to expand that particular occasion. That's how they move from the vegetarians to the flexitarians. And flexitarians is a growing, at the moment, segment. We can talk about these numbers and how the consumers are associating themselves with these flexitarians. They say that it's approximately 20% globally. We do have this flexitarian segment. Maybe it's claimed behavior, but it's definitely an aspiration that we can see consumer wants to grow there. If we speak about the motivations within this area, then it's very simple. There are functional motivations which are related to health, so people want to become more healthy, and this is mostly present within omnivores. This is the first key motivation. Also, we have seen that from your presentation, Manisha. We see that clearly from research that we are doing in the area of plant-based development. But also there is a group of people which is still small, vegan and vegetarians, that are very passionate and motivated by animal welfare and also by the sustainability. This is still emerging in the region. It's still not a primary motivator in GCC, but we definitely see equality between health and sustainability is emerging, for example, already in Europe among consumers. So that's basically the key lifestyle change that we see.
Yes, that makes sense. And I think even in the data, we saw that flexitarians community is growing. Would you know that how fast this flexitarian community would grow? Like any insight on that?
We expect in the plant-based industry that it will be around 50%. It will grow from 20, where we stand now, to 50 by 2030. And it will be not only driven by the fact that consumers change themselves, but we also had a previous session talking about the regulation and policy. Because obviously the ecosystem and the boundaries of our ecosystem are stretched to the point that we cannot sustain this consumption any longer. And there will be regulation and policy developed by the government. We are anticipating COP28 happening very soon in UAE, which will drive education for the consumers, information that will be placed on the labels and on the menus as well, that will help the consumer to make a better choice. So that's why we assume that it will be around 50% by 2030.
Well, that's a big number, and it actually feels reasonable as well. As consumers are more and more committed to their diets and health, it seems that they will be happy to flex between diets just to achieve that objective. Valeria, one more question to you, please. Moving on to the plant-based diets. Do you think it's like a new fad, or it's going to completely redefine the future of food industry?
Definitely it's not a fad, because plant-based is nothing new in our world. If we can look in the civilization and the ancient nations, like, for example, Indian nation and the Indian culture, so we see that that has been in that particular culture since the time of the world creation. So the population of vegetarians is very big in India, so it's nothing new to the world. What we're trying to do now, we're trying to learn from this ancient wisdom, and we are trying to partner the knowledge that we have from agriculture and from these particular cultures with the technology in order to make that movement easier for the consumer, easier integration into everyday diet. So it's certainly not a fad. This is a requirement for our society, and it's a very big landscape shift that we're acknowledging now.
Thank you so much for your inputs. My next question is for Christina. Now that we have established that plant-based diets are going to stay, as a tea and plant-based beverage manufacturer, how do you see the trends changes, like in the backdrop of this greater demand for plant-based, natural, and conscious consumerism?
Thank you, Manisha, for the question. Indeed, the trend is here to stay, and as a big player, or the biggest global player in tea and plant-based beverages, we see the same trend. The trend started in the pandemic, and it's continuing on the rise. We see demand increasing for tea-based beverages, for herbal-based beverages, and for benefit-led beverages. If you would ask consumers about 3-4 years back, or maybe a couple of years before the pandemic, about their daily dietary intake, most of consumers will tend to skip the beverages that they eat. They will tell you what they eat from food, but they would not really focus on the type of beverages that they consume, when beverages account for almost 20% of a daily total caloric intake. And they could account also for almost 50% of the added sugar that consumers have as part of their diet. So the trend of this increase in demand for plant-based beverages, for better choices, for natural beverages, for herbal infusions, is here to stay. It's increasing. And it's also comforting to know that consumers are now being more aware of what they choose, what they add to their diets. We saw from your presentation that it is here in the region as well. It is increasing, and it's not only for vegans and vegetarians. It's for everybody. Carnivores, omnivores, flexitarians, they all want to make a better choice. And this is actually comforting, but it's also time for the industry to embrace the wave of change that's coming.
Exactly, I completely agree with you. Now, deliberating more on the emerging trends, my next question is for Ronald. When you see these trends that are taking place in the food and beverage industry, how does it lead to more vegan and more plant-based diet and less of ultra-processed food consumption?
Well, thank you for the question, and thank you for being here in the debate. Yeah, how does it lead to more vegan plant-based? It all depends on pricing, on marketing and communication by food manufacturers. And how do retailers give these products, offer these products on the shelves? Yeah, so I'm coming from Europe. I visited Cold Food in 2003 for the first time, and then we started promoting free from as a gluten-free claim on the product. So over the years, gluten-free became more accepted as a healthy lifestyle. And so as my previous speakers and today in different other presentations, and congrats for your research, it all shows, and it's obvious to repeat that the consumer really has a top priority when he is choosing for the healthy benefits in the food and beverage products. So we don't have to repeat that. I think that's a statement everybody made here. So more vegan and plant-based is all depending on communications with the consumer from the food manufacturers, but also regulations by healthy bodies and by government. So it's an upcoming trend, and the healthy claim is not only in vegan when it comes to meat-free or plant-based alternatives. It also is driven by sustainability, and it's driven by different categories. I mean, all categories have can offer a healthy claim. It's not only on vegan meat-free. You can talk about snacks. We can talk about ice cream and lactose-free. We can talk about frozen baby food, breakfast cereals. So all the categories have these opportunities. And, you know, in Europe, we also run a show in Bangkok. It's called Healthy Food Asia. And there you see that less and low and free from is not how producers promote their product. No, the Asian consumer is more interested in more. They're not interested in less or low or free from. They're interested in more. So more nutrition value. That's what the Asian consumer wants. More healthy benefits. So it's a different packaging, a different claim on the packaging. In Europe, we say, okay, this is no gluten, no meat, no lactose, no sugar, etc. But the Asian consumer is interested in what does the product gives me? What kind of healthy benefit does it offer me? So interested in more nutrition value, more benefits. And well, the Middle East consumer, well, it will be different, and it's still in the beginning, I think, you said the trend is set after the pandemic, but I think it's a bit earlier. But it all depends on how the market is moving, and that's an interesting situation. Europe is 10 years ahead, I think, in terms of healthy, in terms of consumer looking for healthy benefits. And I think this is a really interesting region for European and international exhibitors at the Free From show to start now and not wait any longer.
Thank you so much, Ronald. I must say that was so interesting. I mean, I can say that if we talk about the future of food industry and from the health perspective, it sounds more on the lines of free from, low less, and more in terms of benefits that we are talking about. That's really interesting. We have outlined a lot of trends that have been shaping up in the food and beverage industry. I would like to ask Khaled that regionally speaking, what do you think are the major demands that consumers are seeking your technical advice on?
Thank you for the question. There is actually quite a few. And for those who don't know Tate Lyle is one of the big and global food ingredient and solution provider. Approximately, we sell more than 50,000 metric ton of ingredient solution in the area of TIMEA, Turkey, Middle East, and Africa. So you can imagine how much we are working with the client, distributor, customers, and many of the food companies in these. And this is also noticing from my colleague that is working in other food companies as well, that the vast majority of requests are coming into the areas of plant-based proteins and ingredients as well. Natural claims, a huge request about organic and all natural, and definitely free from or reduced. And I mean reduced is like reduced sugar, reduced salt or sodium, reduced fat and trans fatty acid and saturated fatty acids, and all that comes in a big surge, especially after the pandemic. But at the same time, there is a shift of many of the companies we're working with that before they were not working a lot on cost reduction or margin improvement. So they are really wanted to work on marketing trends that is meeting the consumer demands and what they're looking for. But at the same time, we have a huge request about margin improvement and also to keep in mind the cost. Because as you know, no matter how wonderful the innovation is, there is a risk that it will fail within 3 years of launch. So we must make sure that the product is good, it has the right claims, whether marketing claims, healthy claim, or etc., and the cost is right.
Thank you so much. I mean, as you clearly outlined, there are a lot of demands that are coming up. Like consumer needs are evolving dramatically. And I'm sure industries are doing their best to meet these evolving demands. If I request you, Khaled, to outline one big demand that you would suggest food companies to focus on, what would that be?
That would be based on our experience working with my team and client actually, and from the success rate for the launches that we work with our client, whether it's a new innovation, line extension, problem solving, it must be taste. And actually taste is king. You cannot produce or launch an NPD product with a wonderful claims, no matter how wonderful it is. And we're talking about the general claims here. We're not talking about product that's food for special medical purposes. That's a completely different category. But if we do consumer evaluation studies in the public, in the normal consumer, the normal audience, taste is king. The product must taste good. The product must not sacrifice the mouthfeel or the taste or the flavor or the aroma. This is the most critical one in order to succeed.
All right, yeah. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. As we are talking about evolving need of consumers and meeting them, moving on to the logistics side of the industry, I would like to request Sooraj to shed some light on what big players like logistic players like Futtaim are doing in order to meet these evolving needs, and at the same time making sure that integrity and customer satisfaction is intact.
Thank you, Manisha, for that question. So from a logistics perspective, this is not a journey that we started. You're seeing the trends happening today, but we see it a little before that. So we started our journey, I would say, back in 2003, 2004, towards building and preparing ourselves for this trend or future trends that keep coming around, yeah? So what we have done is, especially I can speak for Futtaim Logistics, we've built integrated solutions. By that I mean we have our own temperature control facilities, frozen, chill, ambient temperatures. We have our own reefer trucks that move locally, and we have our Across Arabia product where we started moving full truck movements across the Arabian region. We have our last mile delivery guys. So we do all that under one consolidated, integrated solution. But how we take it a step forward that we saw in the last few years that were coming in is we understood that the consumer, right? The consumer makes the demand. It's no more the customer, it's actually the consumer, right? So we started taking it a step forward and we started doing, investing heavily in quality. Quality not just in books or in PDFs, but you can actually come down and talk to cross-contamination about cross-contamination to one of the food handlers in our warehouse, and he'd probably give you more insight about it. So we invested in that quality, right? You can taste that quality in Futtaim logistics. We invested in systems. So there is a lot of data that goes behind this. There's a lot of control that needs to be put behind this, so restrictive binning, right? Track and tracing, real-time data. Some of it can be unstructured data. You need to get it structured. Some of it comes in as structured. But we were building this data analytics. That's why I said we were ready for these trends coming in way before it starts, because we need to start investing earlier in systems, in quality, in people. So that's where we actually build. So today in our Across Arabia product, we have LCL, consolidated reefer movements. See, we get approached by so many players who are in the small and medium size who want to come and explore this market, right? But they don't get the economies of scale. But we can bring that to them, right? Because we just don't work with one or two, we work with many, right? So when you look at a logistics industry that cater to food and beverages, we started the journey long back, and we have to keep on innovating to manage these trends, right? So, for example, somebody was mentioning about Ronald was mentioning about it's not just gluten-free, it's not just sugar-free, it's about what's good on the product also. So we are now taking it another step forward and help our customers with product registration, with regulatory bodies like SFDA, Dubai Municipality, right? So we've built that relationship, we've built that know-how, that we are ticking all the boxes to make sure that we do a very compliant movement of these goods across the chain, right? Yeah. And this ties down with also our sustainability plans, right? It's not just about going EV, it's not just about going hybrid, it's about actually believing in what you're doing and making sure you have that culture, right? However, quality comes at a cost, right? So yeah. The way we try to manage that across it is through collaboration, yeah. Right? Across customers, across industry experts, across regulatory bodies, right? And that's how we try to manage that.
Thank you so much. I mean, I must say that maintaining quality is a big responsibility. Absolutely. And knowing they're put in so much efforts in that, I mean, hats off to that. And that's what we need from the logistic providers for enabling scalability and not compromising at all with what the consumer needs. Because we're talking about this, I would like to ask you one more question, please. What do you think would be key differentiators when we talk about big logistic providers in the food and beverage industry?
See, you'd find many providers there who give you several different services. But there are many differentiators, but I, from the top of my head, I can quickly tell you. One is look for people who have an end-to-end integrated service. Like I mentioned, at Futtaim Logistics, you can look at PO consolidation, you can look at storage facilities that we manage, you can look at transportations that we manage in the food and beverages industry, you can look at support for regulatory compliance. So you have an integrated service across all different legs. Yeah, and that's what we're able to bring, right? As I mentioned, even our Across Arabia product for LCL consolidation for reefers, right? It is a service that is required by the market, right? It might not have its peak volumes, but we are able to bring that through our collaboration. So integrated service is definitely one. The second thing is quality, right? And I repeat it, it's not quality in just books, but it's quality on the floor. So you need to invest in people and those systems where they can actually breathe this quality, because we are shouldering the vision or the brand's statement right up to the consumer. So it's not enough if we just say that, we have to do that, right? And that's where we focus on. We're very compliant with the regulatory bodies, and we carry that with the responsibility that we will go the full mile, right?
That's really good to know. Yeah. As we're talking about food and beverages, we have to talk about the shopping side of it. So moving on to the shopping of grocery, I would like to ask you, Sonya, that do you think e-commerce is still on the rise, and the convenience associated with shopping online is still considered as more important than the physical shopping experience, or it's otherwise? Please
I think,
let us know.
if I were to quote Valeria, it's e-commerce is not a fad anymore. It's here to stay, and it's very much a part of our lives. I was reading a research recently that said 40% of people who shop online started during the pandemic, but currently 80% of people would like to continue shopping online. And the number one reason for that is that it saves time. It adds convenience. People's lives are busier than ever, whether they're working, in a hybrid format or they're going to work full time, whether they're single or they're married. Everybody's lives have become that much busier. And, the convenience that e-commerce offers us is unmatchable. And I think it's become so much a part of our lives that, we can't really do without it. And I remember a time when e-commerce used to be something that really, really young kids did, and their parents would scream at them about why they're ordering things online, and they're probably going to get scammed. And till very recently, my mother, who's in her 80s, is ordering things online. So you can see how that barrier has broken, and it transcends age gaps and SECs, across the region. So definitely, I don't think it's just a fad anymore. It's just a part of our lives that has adapted so seamlessly into the way we do things.
Yeah, exactly, Sonia. I would say that COVID actually triggered the adoption of online to a very large extent, and then we got used to the benefits of it.
Absolutely.
Like, we want everything to be delivered in like 15 minutes.
Yep.
And then I think, of course, I'm not saying it has completely replaced the physical side of it. There's still like a noticeable proportion of the population who like to go and inspect the food and take it as per their preferences. But yes, e-commerce has become a part of our life now, so it's definitely going to stay.
No, for sure. There's still an age group or an SEC that would still like to go to the store and pick out their own vegetables, etc. Or, for that matter, in any other purchases like clothing, etc. They would prefer to go and do it. But most people would just, if it's a standard product that they're using every day, then it's just easier to order it online.
Of course, that's correct. Now, in order to understand more on the demand dynamics, I would like to ask Christina a question. When we see that there is an unprecedented increase in the demand for natural, organic, so on and so forth, could you please tell us from the tea perspective, what are the specific health benefits associated with it, and how are these benefits aligning with the, I would say, new requirements of the consumers in terms of keeping their health as a priority?
Manisha, actually, tea is the most consumed beverage globally after water. And in the region here in the GCC, we are tea drinking countries. We love our tea. We start the day with it. We end the day with it. No matter what type of tea we drink, whether black, green, even a herbal infusion, we are a tea drinking country or a region. Now, it would be good to know that actually this beverage that we are so familiar with, we drink every day, has amazing health benefits that not a lot of people know about. And we also, as the biggest player in this field, want to bring that information to the public. So tea is calorie-free, basically. So when you drink it without sugar or milk, you're not adding calories to your diet. But it is also a very hydrating beverage. It has the same amount of water as practically a cup of water. It is 99.5% water, and the additional stuff are things that are really good for you. It has a very a lower amount of caffeine compared to other caffeinated beverages, so it gives you a slight boost that you need so you can enjoy it throughout the day. But one very important aspect that I want to highlight on, which is probably not known to everybody. In tea, there are flavonoids that are polyphenolic bioactives that are linked to multiple health benefits, from heart health to weight loss to digestive health, so on and so forth. These bioactives are found in fruits and vegetables, but the beverage that we drink on everyday basis, our beloved cup of tea, is one of the top sources of these beneficial flavonoids. So we are a tea drinking nation. We want to really emphasize to the consumers that by reaching out for a cup of tea, hopefully without sugar, they're making a very good choice. Recently, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics issued a recommendation on daily consumption of flavanthriols or flavonoids of 400 to 600 milligrams. And a cup of tea will give you around 100 milligrams. So you're getting quite a lot of your daily recommended dose of flavonoids by reaching to your favorite cuppa. So obviously, we want to push that forward, and we're currently doing that as part of our communication to educate the consumers about the benefits of tea, but also helping them make the right choices when it comes to exercising more, choosing better choices when it comes to the diet, and living, obviously, a healthier lifestyle.
Well, I must say, tea is an, I would say, integral part of our lifestyle. And yeah, many can't even wake up without having their cup of tea properly. And it's great to know how many benefits are associated with this. So I'm sure it's kind of aligned with the wellness trends. But I would also like to probe and understand, do you see any challenges in the market?
Well, certainly. Obviously, when we want to communicate about health, there's always the challenges that come through. And I think the biggest challenge that we face as tea manufacturers or plant-based beverage manufacturers is related to the regulation around herbals, around plant bioactives, around claims. So in Lipton teas and infusions, we aim to create value for all, and as the global leader in this space, we would like to work with local players, with other manufacturers, with the government, with F&B manufacturing group, to come together and clarify the guidelines and the standards around this space. This obviously will create a leveled playing field. It will create fair competition, but it will also help us as manufacturers to put the right information out there to the consumer, to help the consumers make better choices in line with the changing consumer behavior that we see. We see consumers reaching out for more natural, healthier, free from, with added benefit, with fiber, with vitamin, fortified, all of that. So all of this space is currently not very clear. So we would like to be part of or leading the collaboration to clarify this space and create, I would say, a positive environment to be able to communicate about the benefits of plant-based food a little bit more.
All right, thank you so much for letting us know that. I would like to talk a little bit more about free from foods. So coming back to you, Ronald, again, we have seen there has been an increasing adoption of free from food lifestyle. And even in my presentation, we saw that health is becoming a bigger reason behind that rather than intolerances. In your experience, what do you think are like the main drivers that are going to keep it basically continue to grow in the future as well?
Yeah, sure. It's a good question. I mean, the major drivers, of course, is always what a consumer wants. I mean, and the ingredient industry is looking at their solutions. And well, for me, and it was, I think, in previous discussion, talking about quality, I think, and the opportunities for vegan and plant-based, it all comes to taste. And that's a challenge for vegan and plant-based products. I mean, if you're used to drink milk or in a cappuccino and then you change into a plant-based almond milk product, then taste is a difference. I mean, taste is so crucial for consumers who are struggling and looking for healthy benefits. And the industry is moving slowly and slowly towards healthy claims. So in Europe, we see many meat-free and vegan meat alternatives. So, and a lot are quite difficult to get into your daily diet because of the taste is so different, and the food manufacturer is of course struggling with getting the right taste and structure into the product. So, and then what we saw in Europe now, inflation is coming up, that consumers are easily saying goodbye to meat alternatives. So consumer is very, very aware of their choices. And for the meat-free industry and plant-based alternatives, it's crucial to listen to the consumer and to be flexible in how they brand, how they market their products. So yeah, I mean, in the Middle East here, starting with a market and further developing a market which looks at opportunities in different categories. I think that the producers, together with the government and healthy bodies, I think they should look at more regulations in terms of ultra-processed food, because I mean, it also for the society, it has a very cost-driven healthcare when people continue consuming ultra-processed food. It has too much salt, it's too fat. I mean, there's no nutritional value. It has no taste at all. So I think that's the end of a lot of product categories. Yeah, I mean, vegan and plant-based plant-based is I think it is a kind of of course it's a revolution, but it's also a revolution which leads to better product, better quality, better taste, etc. That's what we will see in the coming years. That's the future of food.
Definitely.
No.
Well, I would say I can't agree more with you when it comes to the food consumption habits. I know consumers want to be healthy, but they are so particular about every ingredient that they are consuming these days that they want to know, and we also saw in the presentation that they want to know what exactly they are consuming, to what level it's processed, as you rightly mentioned. As we are talking about the ingredients, I would like to ask Khaled, as a global supplier of food ingredients, which are the key global trends that you're focusing on that will change the future of food in the Middle East?
Sure, that's a great question as well. Actually, there are quite a few. Definitely global market and consumer trends are affecting our local commitment to produce healthier, tastier, and more sustainable food products. And therefore, from our work and from our experience working with our colleagues and our client, I can talk about the top four. Number one comes with a lot to our briefs and project profiles is plant-based product and plant-based ingredients because of the great and healthy proposition about eating plant-based proteins, and at the same time, very nice positive impact on the environment. The second one that it comes a lot is, and we talked about a lot with our client, is transparency that you mentioned in your presentation as well. And we always trying to shift the discussion from our point of view from a clean label to transparency, making sure the customer understand the ingredients and our client as well the ingredients and what provide for the consumer purchases or the customer purchases intents and their desires as well. One thing that we see happening a lot is a lot of trend happening in gut health. As you know, many of the consumer around the world, they do not get enough fibers, specifically soluble fiber. So a lot of those are happening a lot. And as I mentioned earlier, taste is king. And in this category, mouthfeel is very important when you're adding fibers, especially texture and mouthfeel. And depending on the product, could be creaminess, viscosity, and etc. So this is very critical as well. And the last one, which is very, very important, I wanted to mention is sugar reduction and calorie reduction. This is extremely important for many of the customer and consumer because that is actually part of their healthy living as becoming like a major trend. For us, it's a really challenge as an ingredient companies and as a consumer packaged food companies as well, because there is still a challenge when you're using ingredient to substitute the sugar or reduce the sugar and calories. But lately, because of the advance in technology and creating new flavors and new sweeteners, natural sweeteners, and we achieved a lot, and we able to reduce in many instances the sugar to even sometimes zero added sugar without sacrificing the taste. So these are the top 4 I would like to mention.
Thank you so much, Khaled. Very insightful, I must say. As we are talking about the future of foods, let's try to picture it better. So I'm gonna ask Valeria again, when we think about the future of food, what big of a role you think plant-based diets would have to play?
I certainly think that it's going to gain a prominent share of the consumption in the coming years, because as we discussed before, our boundary within the planetary system are quite stretched, and we cannot sustain the same type of consumption, conventional consumption. And not only that, not only it is going to impact the change of our diets and make our diets more healthy, because plants are a great diverse source of the nutrition, especially when combined with new technologies, but also it's going to contribute to the food security, and it's also going to contribute to accelerated journey towards net zero. We at Thrive, we're a plant-based meat first venture in GCC, recently conducted life cycle assessment. For those that don't know what is life cycle assessment, it is a comparative study that demonstrates scientifically the environmental impact benefits from plant-based meat food system versus animal-based meat food system, which clearly shows to us that we can reach the net zero economy in a very easy way without any offsetting. So the role of plant-based in food system is obviously going to drive health, is going to drive sustainability, is going to drive food security, and obviously innovation in agriculture.
Thank you so much. I mean, I want to ask one more question to Sooraj, please, because we are talking about the future and we're trying to picture it. Do you foresee any disruptions that may happen when we look at, say, the demand for organic and free from food? From the logistics perspective, obviously.
Well, since COVID, let me tell you, we are ready for disruption. So, but a couple of things that we are seeing coming, and it's coming very soon, is that the demand will be more onshore or nearshore, right? So we are seeing that you need to build a strong local, when I say local partner, not just UAE or a regional partner, that's going to be very strong in going, because most of these products have a shorter shelf life. So you need to be able to move them faster, and you can see the demand in your presentation showing that the consumer needs and is willing to pay more for freshness. So you need to be able to get that faster to out. So we see that coming up as a strong demand in the not so very far future.
All right, thank you. I know we are short on time, so I'm just going to pose one question to Sonya, because we cannot end any discussion which is on food and beverage sector without talking about sustainability. So we know consumers are price sensitive. So keeping in mind this economic background, do you think that people are losing interest in sustainability and they are becoming more cost sensitive, or they are still holding back to their environmentally conscious behavior?
No, I think, as I mentioned before, sustainability is one of the top trends for consumers now. And it's not just for very young people who, want to make more conscious choices. When we look at research, so 57% of people were willing to change their buying habits in order to make more sustainable buying habits. And I'm sure that they realize that those change in consumer behaviors will come at a cost, but they feel that that cost is easier to bear than the cost to the planet. So sustainability, I think, will continue to remain a key driving factor for consumers, which I think is great for companies like us. At Tetra Pak, sustainability is something which is very near to our hearts. It's something which we try and drive across our value chain so that we try and provide the world's most sustainable package for our customers to offer to consumers, so that they know that the packaging that we're using is sustainably sourced, it's certified as sustainably sourced, it can be made in biodegradable materials as well, and also it is fully, in some geographies it is fully recyclable, but at least 73% recyclable in most geographies. So, we at Tetra Pak rest easy knowing that, we're trying to provide a really, really, a good solution for the future of consumers, and that they know that they're making a more sustainable choice when they're buying a Tetra Pak product. So no, I don't think it's something that's going to die out. I think people know that there is a cost attached to it, but I think they realize that the cost to the planet is far greater. So I don't think it's a trend that's going anywhere.
Thank you, Sonya. So what we're saying here is that the bigger insight for brands is they have to give cost-effective solution to consumers and at the same time not compromise when it comes to environmental issues.
Absolutely.
Do we have some time for questions or no? If you have, maybe we can take a couple. Just one? Okay, please go ahead. Can someone help with the mic? Please. Yeah.
Just let it there. Yeah, please. There's two.
Hi, good day, and a big thank you from the South African delegation for your hospitality and for putting together such a brilliant conference. I think from a manufacturer's point of view, sustainability is definitely the way to go, and it's the new mindset the world over. So when it comes to green manufacturing, I think when it comes to decarbonization, these are words and vocabulary that are not even a trend anymore. These are critical thinking that is affecting manufacturing the world over. So thank you so much. This is definitely highlighting and reinforcing the new way, innovative way of thinking and producing.
Thank you so much. Can we take one more question, please? Please go ahead.
Yes, good evening. Thank you so much for a great conference. We all benefited from all the sessions we attended today. You touched a very important subject. I am associate professor in nutrition, and I am a consultant at the Ministry of Environment, Water, and Agriculture in Saudi Arabia. As for the tea, I know it's very beneficial, but we know it has constituents that prevent the absorption of iron and calcium. So we have to shed some light for consumers who are drinking tea to not to drink the tea when they are consuming calcium or iron from plant origin. That way, because it's gonna prevent the absorption of these two very important minerals to the health. As for the Mr. Ronald, and you're saying that this is a the plant-based diet to take place permanently, the animal, I do not agree totally, because we all know as a nutritionist that the essential amino acids that's in the protein source or protein-based diet cannot be found in the plant. And our bodies does not produce these amino acids. The only way we get them is from meat or any animal product. So on the long run, if a person takes plant, like vegans or vegetarians. Vegetarians, not so much, but the vegans, they could suffer from malnutrition in the long run, okay? And especially if you give it to children, we're gonna have problems like stunting, sort of reproductive system problems. So we don't want to cause problems, we wanna help. We want to enrich, we want to innovative solutions, as you said, okay? As for Manisha, if you don't mind, I would like to ask you about your samples you compared between Saudi and Emirat. What did it consist of? How many Saudis in the sample and how many Emiratis in the sample? Was it representative? Because I know Emirat is mostly expatriates, and usually this cocktail of the population makes the, their eating habits and what they prefer and their, like the palatability is different. So if you're comparing Saudis with Emiratis, it's understandable. Okay, and I really respect and appreciate your results. But if you are, like the Saudi samples, mostly Saudis, while the Emirati sample, mostly expatriates, it's not gonna represent, and you cannot compare, say, Saudis, because Saudis and then Emiratis, and especially the income of the expatriates, it's higher. That's why they can afford to buy high-priced food, while the national, especially in Saudi, maybe they cannot afford it on the long run. Thank you so much.
First of all, I would say thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.